Maarten is just playing with friends.
Every aspect of Manus looks so good, like from the web page to the renders to...
Basically, it's anywhere you want to digitize hands, then you want to use this. Yeah.
In our heads, we have these like big symbols of like these big companies, but they're made up of people.
Like people say, who invented this? And it
like,
doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So nobody invented the bicycle. It was just somebody made tires and somebody made beer.
The names I came up with one was like called Bend Reality, the other one Reality Operators.
I like the Bend Reality more.
Bend Reality?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey Maarten.
Hey Taron.
So I'm Taron. Today is our first episode of the podcast. Think we'll do like a little intro, then jump into it. I'm thinking, I actually don't have a name for the podcast.
It will come.
I wanted to ask you like on an opinion. So I was talking with my mom yesterday, and like she has no idea about, like, she knows something I do with VR, like no idea about anything else. I'm like, Mom, I'm doing like a podcast with like my colleague friend Maarten. I gave her like two options. What should I call it? Like, I'm like, what do you think I should call it? She's like, my mom's opinions with advice sprinkled here and there.
Now I get what that last part your rider was.
Yeah, when you were reading
it. Okay.
I didn't want to put it at the top of the thing because that was the first thing you're gonna read. Yeah. So I was like, I'll move it at the.
It's too much, maybe a bit too much kitchen table. Feeling for it, but we can just load the whole podcast into Midjourney or into the Gemini and then see what sort of titles it can depict from the video.
I thought it was funny because like every mom, like I've noticed it with friends too, like they give an opinion and then advice on top. So like always, yes. So that's why I thought it was like it personified like every mother out there. Like, so it was funny. But
it was a very long time, like in the whole founding of Manus, that my mom would just call it, Maarten is just playing with friends. Just spielerij, just playfulness. And they have a company or something, but it's just, they just play games in VR. And
I love moms, like they're the point singularity of creation, right? Like that's they gave life to everything. So they are Mother Nature. And the names I came up with one was like called Bend Reality, the other one Reality Operators. So
I like the Bend Reality more.
Bend Reality?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to go with something like, okay, we have all these terms, right? Like VR, AR, XR, spatial computing, Vision Pro. To me, they're all like very static. They're like this like industry we're in. It's all about movement, right? It's all about creation. It's all about fluidity, and the words don't really describe it. They're like just frozen in time.
Yeah.
So I was thinking like why bend reality? Because we're bending reality. I wanted to give like a verb to the meaning. So like even like when I'm doing like like I'm raising for my company Nox now, and like I thought it'd be funny like when introducing to investors, hey, like I'm the founder of Nox, and we're a BR company, like we're virtual reality in action. Yeah. So like bend reality. That's what I going for.
No.
And like as founders, we're bending the reality of things that don't exist towards our product. Yeah. Right. So we're fostering our own reality out of it.
Yeah. Like sketching out a space in which this can all exist.
Yeah. And it's only exists
still pioneering. It's still getting things done. So it's still like shaping up a space into where this all makes sense. And
Okay.
sure.
I'll do a little intro.
Yeah.
Taron, founder at Nox, Nox Labs. Nox is the leading XR marketplace where we enable VR and XR builders to launch and market their products. We want this to be a place where the builder, the brand doesn't have to worry about the marketing and how part. So to make it easy for builders to make their products discoverable and for people to make it easy to get what they need, working towards like a Tesla buying experience.
Yeah.
So today with me, I have Maarten Witteveen.
Witteveen.
Witteveen?
Witteveen. Yeah, it's a Dutch name. Makes it more difficult. Yeah.
Witteveen. Okay. So I'll read off here. He's the co-founder and president of North America of Manus. Mm-hmm. Manus develops high-end finger tracking gloves and other products for motion capture and VR. They offer the world's leading data gloves for mocap and VR applications. A little background on Manus. Manus has been building data gloves for use in real-time VR and motion captures for years now. How many years?
9 years.
9 years. Okay.
Yeah.
So from inception.
Yeah.
They have recently released the Quantum Meta gloves, which Maarten's wearing, which moves to a new magnetic tracking approach, which offers unparalleled accurate finger tracking, especially when it comes to fingertip interactions, either for picking up small objects in VR or with physical objects such as props or mixed reality tools. Congrats.
Yeah.
I've seen you guys from inception all the way to now. So
it's been a wild ride, and we're still bending and going everywhere. So it's it's been fun.
Do you want to jump into doing a demo of the gloves? So as we're talking about it, people can get an idea of what it is.
Yeah, we can just have it up and showcase it.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
For sure.
So we'll switch to the TV here.
Yeah.
So can you give us a little intro on the gloves and then demo?
Yeah. So Manus has been building glove products for 9 years now. We started out with really simple technologies like band sensors and IMU sensors, like the orientation sensors you would find in a lot of devices such as mobile phones and drones. And then we actually went into real deep technological research into, okay, how can we find the most accurate finger tracking and get that into a product? And we actually landed on electromagnetic field tracking, which allows us to really pinpoint where the fingers are in absolute space. And that allows us to do this sort of pinching movement. And that was actually something that our customers were really looking for when they went, I want to be able to pick up small screws. I want to be able to pick up small objects. And there was just never a solution that allowed them to do that. And now with this product, they're able to, in VR, pick up something small, manipulate it, and do very lifelike and realistic interactions. Really bring that reality level to a new standard.
That pinching is where it all starts from, right? It's a very first human level thing. And that whole 9-10 years of development came into a small form factor like that. I remember you were talking about a case of a our army general, I think, where he was just doing this for.
I told the story when I was at your location. Yeah, that was
okay
funny.
To share.
That was at the E3 of 2015. It was the first event we went to, and that was when I'm talking early days VR, where everything was really mashing things up together and just making it work. That was definitely one of those trade shows, and there was this guy from NASA, a researcher. We built out this entire demo where you could shoot robots and you could shoot lasers out of your hand and this whole interaction stuff. And he just put on the headset, which was one of those Galaxy ones where you would put a mobile phone in, really early days VR. And just for an hour straight, or for 10 minutes straight, he was just doing this sort of interaction, just moving his fingers around and just for 10 minutes doing nothing. And I was explaining, you can shoot aliens and there's all these things happening. I was
like,
just no. So I just left him alone, was answering questions of other people. And then at some point...
left him alone.
I just left him alone. I was like, okay, this he's probably doing something. Like, it's fine. So after 10 minutes, he took it off. And I was asking, like, what were you testing? What were you doing? And he just took it off and he went like, not bad.
What is that?
Well, okay. And he said, yeah, all other devices he had tried up until then would all drift after a certain element of time. And this was the first time he had a product on that would give him consistent data, would not drift, and would just be repeatable. So I actually sold a few pairs to NASA back in the day. Like those early, that was really like the development kit.
I remember that. No, those gloves. But I guess in those in industry applications, it's more important that it keeps on working, right? Rather than it's just like, wow. Consistency is key in industry applications with your clients, right?
Yeah, it's actually a really difficult market to develop for. Because they are used to, well, back then, not even that. Like they were used to using like game controllers or keyboard and mouse. Like that's what the VR market started with, was like people being in VR and using game controllers. And then switching over from input controllers where you can just push a button and have the interaction. Then they wanted to switch to spatial interaction, like using your actual hands. But that has a lot of implications where the technology back then really wasn't ready for. And we're now sort of like getting to the point where it is getting to the tipping point. So there's a direct demand, but also really hard to surface market there. Because to go into more detail, like they want the product needs to be ergonomic, like easy to use. And that's what they really like about this product. Like it's lightweight, there's nothing restricting any motion. So it's really comfortable to put on and to wear, and you can put it on a lot of people. Like that's one criteria. Then the other one is precision. So to be able to do these types of pinches and grabs and be able to interact in that world. Well, that's also what this product does. But then they also want a lot of haptic interfaces. It's so often that I get the question for temperature and weight and these types of sensations. And then I go like, okay, you need to make a choice here. Do you want an easy to use, ergonomic, lightweight product, or do you want everything included and have like a bulky, heavy product ending up with? So that's one element of it. And then on the software side, there's all these physics engines and interaction models, and it's just more difficult to get that to work. But then on the applications where it does work, it's really compelling and it's really, really cool. And that's why those high-end companies really want to go for that.
You guys are, one sec, Andrew, we can switch to any shot now. So you can do it at your own whim. Wide, us, whatever, however you were going to do it. So, okay. How... You were saying like the market is at a tipping point. Are you talking about consumer market or in the industry market?
Yeah, so I'm mostly conversing from the standpoint of Manus that makes high-end products. Like these gloves are $5,500 for instance. Right, they're not on a level where it's interesting for consumers to dive into. It's really more the high-end engineering companies, the high-end training companies that now see an interest. But we definitely see this as a trickle-down sort of situation where you first have the high-end companies that can invest and build the experiences and build that all out, and then move into more accessibility, lower price point, and just that it just keeps moving down the chain to eventually end up at consumers.
Are you guys the only one doing magnetic tech, like tracking using magnetic field disruptions, I guess?
Yeah, so there's a lot of companies actually that use EMF. Like it's a technology that exists since the 1960s, and it's used in the medical field to track probes into the human body. Paul Hemus is a big player that works into this space. But we are the only one that makes such a comfortable product, like lightweight, easy to use, easy to integrate with electromagnetic field tracking, like as a standalone solution that you can just plug and play, get into your experience, and just within 1 to 2 days have it in your Unity scene and can start going.
Calibration is super quick on it, right? That like under like a minute.
It's just 3 poses.
Like, it's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what people really like about it, is just how quick you are to set up. So you hook it up, you do a 3-step calibration. You have all our Unity plugins, Unreal plugins, and you just get it into your scene. And then, you just replace the controller with a hand and get going.
So good. You guys have built out I guess we should, or leave it on.
We can. Just going into black screen. My bad. There we go.
Yeah, let's just leave it on.
Yeah.
You guys have, for like Unity, Unreal, you guys have built-in plugins where just from your Manus core, they can record and push it to the scene.
Yeah. And that's a really streamlined way to do it. We also support OpenXR. So any customer that has anything set up with the hand model, like there's a hand input SDK within like the OpenXR, the sort of standard that they created. So for instance, you have VRAD, which is an Autodesk program to use virtual models. And there you can just interface through the OpenXR to get our gloves working in that.
Okay. I want to ask some questions about like what are like use cases, and then I want to jump into like Genesis, like how you guys actually got started. And then
of course,
it's interesting like what the first model was when what it is now. So like what are some like of the use cases? And I think maybe you can break it down into like mocap, motion capture, and VR as 2 separate industries. Yeah. And then like use cases there, and then we can get more granular. What's some use cases in motion capture?
So within the motion capture market, we very early on partnered with Xsense. Xsense makes motion capture suits, like IMU-based suits, and that allows for a lot of home creators to make content, and that's very interesting. Where we're working with a lot of solo producers that are their own script writers, own directors, own motion capture artists, and they've never had a solution where they could realistically and accurately capture hands. So you see a lot of those solo producers that use our product and then go like, I would never have had the time to do all the manual hand animations just by myself. Like that would require a team or multiple people that are just spending hours onto making manual hand animation. So that has been a lot of fun, like working with those.
That's so important. Yeah.
So they really see this as, without Manus product, we wouldn't be able to do the work that, like the job that we do. Like we wouldn't be able to create this content. And then if you go to like, that of course goes on to the bigger studios where, the bigger the production, the more hours are spent onto manual hand animation. So there's a lot of reduction you can do there. So it's being used for games where they make the animations for the cutscenes and for the character animations. It's being used for like TV series, movies, all those types of.
It was recently used for Tesla bot, right?
That's always sort of like the thing where you have the motion capture, but motion capture is not really a market, it's a technology. So we have the entertainment market, but we also have the robotics market and the healthcare market, and there's a lot of different industries, and that's actually what I like a lot about doing this work and doing this job.
You're hitting like...
it's whenever you're talking to somebody, almost within every industry, there's an element where they go like, oh, could we track this? I remember that I've once had a conversation with somebody from André Lon that went, oh, can we make like tutorials onto how to massage our shampoos into the scalp of a head? And I was like, yeah, sure, you could do that. You could motion track that, capture that. So yeah, within any sort of industry, that opens up avenues into, this could be useful for that. And especially the one with Tesla, that was, of course, I'm a big fan of robotics and that whole humanoid robot they built. It just looks so futuristic and cool. And there's a lot of humanoid robotics companies now that are popping up and that are showcasing it.
So anywhere there are hands.
basically, it's anywhere you want to digitize hands, then you want to use this. Yeah.
How'd you guys get started?
Yeah, so we back in 2014, so summer of 2014, there was a group of friends, and I know one of them from primary school. I know the other guy from high school. So we go way back. We know each other. So that's Bob Flemings and Stefan van der Brink. Stefan van der Brink is still with the company. Bob Flemings is one of the original guy.
Hold on, it was four of you guys or 5?
It was a total of 5 guys. Back then it was Tim van Veenendaal, who was studying electrical engineering, Bob Flemings, who did the marketing, and then Stefan van der Brink, who did the financial side of everything.
You guys had like all covered, yeah. And this was in Eindhoven, yeah? Eindhoven, okay.
Yeah, the tech capital of the Netherlands. Okay. Nobody knows it, but it's the place where Philips comes from, and ASML and NXP, and like those big tech companies. So it's a cool area with a good technical university, and so it made sense that it came from that region, basically. But so it was those 3 guys, and they had this idea of, we want to play video games with our hands, and we want to build out this product. Started a Kickstarter, didn't really go the way they wanted to go, because it's hard to do that, especially that was really early days of Kickstarter as well, before more successes were made into that. So then they approached me, where they went like, hey, we're building this glove to play video games with. Do you want to help out? And I was like, yeah, I can help out in the weekends and in the evening hours, and let's just see where we can take this. And then we got selected for an accelerator, which was High Tech Excel.
High Tech Excel, right? Yeah. Okay.
We got invited for that accelerator to pitch our idea. And just before we got on, we also found Stijn Stumpel, who was studying at the Design Academy of Industrial. No, it's not design. Like on the technical university, like the design study.
His designs are insane. Like still, that's why every aspect of Manus looks so good. Like from the web page to the renders to
he now started his own studio, and the work he does is phenomenal. You should check out his Instagram. It's really, really cool. So the 5 of us, we got selected for this High Tech Excel, and then for 3 months we went into this program to basically learn how to start a company, because none of us had prior like business or like started a company or founded something. So we were all rookies in that regards. So it was just 3 months of being a sponge, just taking in information, just learning how to do this, how to build a company, how to fundraise, how to get investors on board, how to build out the product, how to sell it, like all those things. And then after that 3 months, we got our investment in, and then we got this idea of, let's just go to the E3. I know it's in 3 months, but let's just go there.
Wow.
So we had 3 months to go from a very rudimentary prototype to something we could showcase at a trade show, and that would stay in one, like stay together for at least those 3 days of the trade show. Build out a demo, build out the marketing, build out the company. Like do all those things within 3 months, and then showcase it there at the E3. Yeah, that was a trip. That was, looking back, I still don't know how we pulled it off, but we pulled it off. So we did a really good E3 there. And that really like elevated the company to get us into the picture of those NASA and automotive companies. And
was Oculus already born there by then?
Yeah, that's also where we basically got the name from, like Manus, because Oculus is.
Oh yeah, where'd you guys get the name? That was, I always wanted to ask.
Yeah, so Oculus is like eye in Latin, and Manus is hand in Latin. So we thought it was a fun play to go that route. So eyes and hands. And well, part of us hoped we would have had the same journey as Oculus, where we would just sell it off for $2 billion to Facebook and call it a day. But that has been a longer trajectory. So that was Oculus was around, and that's also what sort of made us go from, oh, we want to build a glove that you can use to play video games, to, hey, this is VR is picking up again. Like VR already existed before, but this was the first time that all the sort of technologies culminated into the headset. And then, people were using that VR headset with game controllers and keyboard and mouse, and it just looked weird. And we were going like, hey, we're building this glove, and we should be able to use this for VR as well. And pitched it in that way. And also the demo we showed at the E3 was in VR.
Yeah, I think it's still like that now. Like, even though like we're like 10 years into VR, like I still think like you guys are doing tremendous work for input, and it's probably the most important part of VR, VR, AR, XR, in addition to the headset itself, like human machine interaction, like new ways of user interaction, right? Like moving away from actual like controllers to more nuanced ways of interacting. So I think the work you guys are doing is just as important, like now even more important, as we're moving to like more mass market with hand tracking, than actually like the controllers themselves. Like, so
yeah, it's all like the stepping stones to get to this space. I still remember very vividly when we first put the HTC Vive trackers onto the wrist. Because before that, like the really we got the sort of development kit in with the sombreros. I don't know if you ever saw those, but those were like before they had the Vive controllers, they had like a prototype they would send off to developers.
No, I haven't seen that. No,
that was like sort of like a sombrero hat.
Wow!
And we took the whole controller apart, even though we weren't allowed to. But we took it all apart to put it onto the wrist. And that was the first time that in virtual reality, you would have your hands
really
on the space where it also was in VR. And then that thing like proprioception kicks off, where you see your virtual hands on the place where your physical hands are also located. And that just sells the whole experience to such a new level that you just don't get from tracked controllers. You don't get from other sorts of tracking in that sense. So...
And so with the gloves, you can track anything without any line of sight, right? And then if we want to get its physical location in like temporal space, you would need to add like a tracking module to it.
Correct. Yeah. So this like the tracking just works like behind my back. I can still pinch anything, but if I want a spatial tracking, you will need to put like a tracking onto it. And that can be anything like OptiTrack, Vicon, Qualisys, or the Steam VR tracker. And also now with the new Ultimate Tracker from HTC, I'm really curious how that...
I haven't tried it yet.
No, me neither. I still have to try it, but could be interesting.
Yeah. What are some challenges now? You guys okay, let's frame it like this. What are some challenges the industry is facing that you think now that are important, and how does that trickle down to you?
So one of the most difficult things still is that if you want to have like something built out, you have to invest into building out content. Like the content development is still quite intensive to do. And you have big companies that have their own VR team that build their own Unity and Unreal demos and put in all the effort to make that work. I think that is still something that as game development progresses, and especially like AI generated stuff has its role into there, where people can say, I want to have a training scenario built out, and it just gives it cues into what the training scenario should be, and it gets built out into this VR scene instead of having a developer that really needs to like orchestrate everything. Like that's gonna be a major factor into it.
Are you guys R&Ding in that direction?
Yeah, so as we are like the controller input for that scene, we don't really have a play into the sort of AI generation or like the game development generation. Our job is to make the integration into replacing controllers as easy as possible. Like that's basically what our task and challenge is. So to break that status quo into, I know how a controller works. And then we go, you know how a controller works, but with gloves, you will train as you use it. Like there's no distinction between the reality and using your hands. So basically also if you can use like the AI generated, then one of the major hurdles right now still within using spatial computing and using spatial interaction is the physics engines. Like the physics engines is like even how good they are trying to emulate what like the natural interaction would be. And it can still mess up from time to time or like create artifacts or that sort of stuff. So being able to use spatial computing and spatial interaction, like that's still like an element that with AI supportive could enhance that experience.
Like a layer between the hand gloves and the headset, right? Like where it's helping you make the right input or helping you define the right input. Like we're missing that interaction layer, right? Right now with in the industry.
Yeah, so grasping user intent and what is the user like? Is he trying to pick up this object and combine it with that and put it into this modal block, or like capturing users' intent and then making that experience really streamlined?
That's such a fascinating area because I think it's like then you do too, like where it's like completely rethinking interaction and making it purposeful. Purposeful and predictable. So we're kind of like creating a new living layer, right? That's constantly evolving to the user's needs, but has like a central. What were you calling it? Modal block.
So that was just an example, like for the engineering aspects. What I found really interesting and relevant is. Like automotive companies, they want to prototype as much as they can already in virtual reality. So they create a full digital twin of like a car, and then do the whole assembly within VR. And especially with electric cars, with all the cable, like cable trees that run through it, they want to know like if I put the motor block in, can I still reach behind and put like this connector in there, and does it fit? Is that ergonomic? Is that safe to do? Or does it need to be redesigned and create more clearance? Like those types of things within a virtual space. That's very relevant and very interesting to be able to prototype out before building anything physical.
Okay, that makes sense. So we would need like modal blocks for interaction in essence, where I could add to that interaction layer that you have built. Okay. Taking complete tangent.
Yeah.
Who are some of your role models?
Like my personal role models, I've never had that I really look up to it like a classical aspect of like, this is my role model and I wish I could live my life that way. Or I could, that's just not how I work. Like I respect a lot of people on their merits and like what they create, and that's, but not so much as a role model. I do really love rebels. Like I like people that dare to kick against something or just completely go in against something that is known. Some figures that come to mind is Lawrence Malstaff. He is an artist that makes physical, like analog physical interactive art pieces. And I can still remember as a student going to a tech exhibition, and he had like this art piece where it was 2 sheets of plastic that were vacuumed, and you would be able to move in between that plastic. Like that was sprung up like onto the ceiling, so you would be like 3 meters, or like that's like 9 feet off the ground, and then like you would be able to move in between those plastic layers, but it just looked like people were vacuumed and locked into space. Like that type of creativity, that was really impressive. And more on the technical side, of course, Paul Malarkey is a character. Like he started the whole Oculus. Of course, there was this whole lawsuit between him and ZeniMax, which they handled offsite and everything. So I don't know.
You would expect that, like something would, like as you said, as Rebel, like you go crashing.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. but he pulled it off. Like you can say about the guy what you want, but he pulled it off. Like he made his company, sold it to Facebook, and all the lawsuits were settled. So maybe not the nicest way to do it, but he got the job done. And it is a big reason of why the VR space is at this place where it is right now. And I can still remember that I met him at GDC 2016, and he was just like, everybody was in suits and trying to look business wise and respectable, and he was just in his Bermuda pants and flip flops, just walking around. That was a character. He's fun. And of course, Elon Musk, like.
He's inspiring, man.
He's inspiring. He can go off the rails in so many directions. But his recent one where he just called out Disney. I'll just turn it off. Mm-hmm. Where he just called out Disney onto.
That was so good, man. Like that was so good.
Yeah.
Because it's inspiring. Like because like this these hegemons, right? Like we're always like in our heads we have these like big symbols of like these big companies, but they're made up of people.
Yeah.
And for him able to challenge that is, I think, what really moves the needle. It's what's going to move the needle in a lot of places. Like creating new things is more like internally blocked because like we think of like these big companies, like in our heads is like, it's just like this symbols of greatness, but they're just human at the end of the day, made up of humans. And that's what I like about EACC. Have you seen that movement? Like effective accelerationism. Have you seen that term come up in Twitter?
I haven't seen that term come up, but I have seen like accelerationists.
Yeah.
So I think that plays in on itself. But maybe you want to explain the term?
So it came from this account called Beth Jesus.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I see. Yeah.
And it's essentially saying that we want to build as quickly as possible without any like chains holding and decelerating. Mm-hmm. And we're building technology for good. And the reason that came up is like, as we were talking about, Musk he is pushing for good, and he is pushing for new without the like layers of like emotional, like human collective conscious baggage that comes with it, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's important.
Well, some boundaries are good. Like otherwise you end up with a submarine that doesn't make it. Yeah. Like some health and safety aspects and some regulation is of course important. But to be able to kick against the establishment and go like, this isn't working, guys. We're building this financial structure or this sort of capitalistic mindset where things are just like grinding to a halt, and this is not moving in a direction that is helping humanity. It's actually going against it. And how do we break this? That's really interesting.
It's the opposite of like a Brave New World, right? Like in when there's an abundance of things, mm-hmm. That itself seems a great thing, but then that abundance, you can drown in it. Like we are doing now in capitalism. Like, so it's a fine balance, as you were saying.
Yeah. Great book, by the way. I love that read.
Yeah.
Brave New World.
Yeah. Hold on. It was Brave. Who was the other guy? Huxley?
Yeah, Huxley.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. When are you guys thinking of offering a consumer product?
It's like we would be technically capable to do it. But it's a chicken and an egg story, basically. Where you go, building a glove at that scale would only make sense if there's content for people to use it. And the content developers will only make content if there's a user base to use it.
Say it again. Okay.
So it's a chicken and an egg story where you can only sell to masses if the masses have content. Like the consumers can only use it when they have content to use them in. And the content developers will not make content unless there's users using the glove. So we're sort of inching into this place where it's getting more and more into the prosumer space, like our glove product. With the OpenXR layer, that already makes it a lot more accessible. So I think the next step is to keep coming down into the cost factor, keep making it that it's more easily accessible, and see it more as a gradual path to get there. And then at some point, I think there's so many implications where OpenXR or optical hand tracking is used into games that come out, and the content that comes out, that interjecting hands into their like glove-based interaction just makes sense.
And you think hardware augmented hands are going to be important in consumer space or in the space moving forward?
Yeah. I mean, with optical hand tracking, you can already do a lot, but there's just so many interactions where it.
Can you explain what optical hand tracking is?
Yeah, so let's say the Quest 2 and also the Quest 3, and before the XR3, they will come out with either their own solution or with Leap Motion integrated into it, where there's cameras that detect where the hands are, and with image recognition, it would detect what the hands are doing.
Okay.
But it would only do that from one viewpoint. So there's a lot of interactions where one hand is facing this way and the other one is facing this way, and it won't really be able to distinguish hands correctly, or they're facing away from the camera, it's not getting all the details in there, or it's outside of field of view, or you're holding an object, and then like anything that creates occlusion or changes the hand structure where it can't really detect the hand, realistically, it will just not do it properly.
It's a computer vision problem, yeah?
Yeah.
Flat.
It's a image from one angle, like one viewpoint, and you're missing a lot of elements there. Like for certain interactions, it's fine. Like if you're just like facing this way and you're interacting this way, then it's perfectly fine. But there's a lot of interactions where it doesn't work out. And then the element, which is one of the most tricky things in virtual reality, is depth perception. Like knowing when you grasp, like where am I in relation to the object, and then adding haptic layers, like having a haptics cue that when you're touching an object, that you know you're touching the object, or releasing it, especially when you're doing things out of your field of view, like releasing out of field of view. You want to know, did I start or stop this interaction? Am I still holding this object, or am I releasing this object? And then there's only one way to get haptics onto a hand.
Get it on the hand.
And that's to wear a glove. So I do really think that even with all the optical tracking and all the other means of interaction, that it will still gravitate towards wearing gloves, having haptics on your hands.
Yeah, and it has to be very no frills, right? Like where it just works. Turnkey.
Exactly. Yeah, just slip them on and get going. It's easy as that.
Yeah, and you're it doesn't need to be as advanced tracking as what you're doing now.
No, we actually also, next to this product, have our Prime 3 out. Prime 3 is our haptics model. It still has really good tracking. just not as good as the Medic Glove, but really good tracking. But it has haptics integrated. So just into the fabric, into the textile, just haptic motors. And that really helps to like gear towards, okay, how am I interacting in this VR world? Did I start or stop an interaction? And it just helps, to drive that VR experience.
Resistive tracking.
Yeah, so it has a flex sensor inside that determines like the bend of the finger, and then there's an orientation sensor that gives us the orientation data of the finger. So you have all the elements like finger spread and rotational data and everything combined. And then we actually use an AI model trained with the Medic Gloves to apply to the data from the glove to give it that precision.
Oh, nice. So you guys are like a Tesla kind of model, was like you using the data from the gloves out there to retrain the core, yeah?
Well, we're not gathering data from our users,
Okay.
but we are gathering data like internally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we have a lot of industry users and they really don't want you to stream data back to your company. Like that's something they would not.
I wouldn't think like, it's funny, like that hand privacy would be an issue.
Exactly, yeah.
It's awesome, right? Like
hand privacy letter, that would be interesting to provide with the glove.
Yeah, and maybe you can have it like, you know how you like check a box, like on a web page. Here you can like the terms and conditions can be like done with hand. It gets super interesting. What are like some advancements in the industry that's been like really exciting for you lately?
Well, I recently tried out the XR4.
Oh yeah, how was it?
That was really good. I've never been able to so crisply read letters in VR. Like reading text in VR was always tricky. I could get this kernel and fraying around the edges of the letters, but this was just sharp, really good. And yeah, I just love their headsets, like on how good the image quality is and everything. So that was a big step up. And now that they're also moving towards inside out, which all the headsets are, that's interesting, like how accessible and usable those headsets become. And also all the advancements on AR, like with the Magic Leap. Like when I tried it out at your place, I was stunned just at how good that visual quality is when it's placed inside like a physical space, and all the interactions you can still get into. Yeah.
The Magic Leap like wasn't not recycling photons, right? XR4 is recycling photons on a screen.
Yeah. It uses different implications. So yeah, the XR4 like has the pass through, so it adds the world, and then has the virtual layer on the screen. And Magic Leap, of course, like it just has the real world pass through, like without a filter, then imposes the holographic like generated imaging on top. Yeah,
they're both partners with Nox and like great companies.
Yeah,
like Vario has been like an inspirational, like a model culture of like from.
You were talking about design. I just love their
their design
work.
is insane. And I was at like the Magic Leap headquarters in Florida. Like they really got granular on like the like the curve of like the plastic of how you're holding it. It's like so beautiful seeing that like that level of thought going into it.
Yeah, that booth because I was just at ITSEC. That booth at ITSEC was also like impeccable. It just looked so amazing.
So good.
Yeah.
What drives you?
That's a very good question. From my study and like I was talking about that Lawrence Mall stuff, like those art pieces, like I've always been driven by experiences, like giving people something new and novel, and like eliciting sort of like excitement or fear or something of an emotion, like eliciting that effect. And I think especially with interaction and human machine interfaces, and with that all those types of elements, you can really elicit really deep experiences in a really short time frame. Like really get somebody submerged into an experience. So going from my studies where I graduated by making this robotic lamp that would respond.
What was your background, by the way?
I've studied ICT and multimedia design, but then went into a specialization for art and technology.
That's why I like this. Yeah, this is perfect.
Yeah. So it all culminated to this point where I get to do, like a really technological way of bringing, artistry, which is like the human interaction. I see that also as a form of artistry. So whether it's applied to something that doesn't have a function or it does have a function doesn't really matter to me. Like I find it artistry when somebody builds a VR experience that is compelling and drives a story and creates a narrative and builds that out. So I think that is really what drives me, is that human-machine interaction and just playing at the forefront of what is technologically capable. So whenever I see a humanoid robotics company that uses our gloves to power their AI-driven robotics platform, like I just get excited. Or it's applied for research into, like Parkinson patients, for instance, like in the healthcare elements, and it has a place and a function there. Like all those things all work towards things that get me excited. We're working at the forefront of technology, and we're furthering the progression of the humankind.
Yeah, we're expanding the imagination. I don't want to say vector space, I guess, like the dark matter of it, like where someone else can come on the edge and take another leap. Because we're taking leaps all the time, right? Like I'm learning from you, you're learning from someone else. Like the further out, the bigger the leaps are.
Yeah, but that's always like people say, "Oh, who invented this?" And it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So nobody invented the bicycle. It was just somebody made tires and somebody made gears and somebody made this and somebody made that. And then one person had the idea, what if I combine all those elements and now I have a bicycle? And the same is true with the VR headsets. Like VR headsets existed, but they were never practical or anything. And then people made mobile phones and the orientation sensors and all the technology aspects on the display quality and the like miniaturization of computing power, and then you get a VR headset. Like it's all those elements that come together.
I like that philosophy. Yeah. Like it's nice getting away from the word invent.
Yeah, it's more things exist in the ether.
Yeah,
and that's also why technologies are sometimes invented multiple times on like the globe, like at multiple space and times, just because those ideas are in the ether and they combine towards this new leap into what is physically possible.
So you think ideas come first?
Yeah, definitely. Like it's the culmination of ideas, like everything that comes together.
Do we as humans, do we have an input into that objective reality?
I think so. I had a really good teacher in my school who came from like a Philips research background, and his idea was always to gather as much data as you can from a wide variety of sources, and then just have that run around into your head, like in your mind space, and then your mind will create the dots into, oh, but if this is true in this industry, and this is happening in this philosophical debate, and this is going on in this mathematical world, like try to get into the spaces where new ideas are being formed, and then just tap into not just one industry, but try to broaden that as much as possible, and then you'll be able to make connections that otherwise before didn't exist yet.
So your mind is kind of like an amalgam of...
I don't know that word.
It's like, I learned it recently and I've started using it. I like it. Like it's like a big ether, like bringing things together. Like an amalgam is like a collection of things.
Yeah. So I think that is what humans are like very good at. It's like bridging gaps between different data points and then making like, oh, if this is possible, then that should also be possible. And how do we get there? Like futurology thinking into what are potential avenues for.
we're kind of like anti-entropy, huh? Like,
well, your whole life is fighting against entropy.
Yeah.
It's like the whole world is chaos, and by putting effort in, you fight against the decay. Yeah, that's the only way to do it.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the only way life figured out how to stop it.
Yeah,
by being life.
yeah. The difference between being alive and not being alive is just constant effort. Yeah.
We have like 2-3 more minutes. I want to ask like a little more esoteric. Who's your favorite author?
Favorite author? I think
book.
I think Douglas Adams is one of my favorite writers, but also Asimov. I think Douglas Adams and Asimov. Those are my two favorite writers. Yeah, like with the whole Hitchhiker and the Foundation series and the Robot series. It's And yours?
Man, first that comes to mind is J.K. Rowling. Now I have she was just like able to open up imagination so well with her words. I like Jung now. Carl Jung, like he writes really well, psychologist.
Right. Yeah.
And recently been reading Donald Hoffman. He's like a cognitive scientist at UC Irvine. Like he has like nice like new theories on consciousness. Like he's saying that basically. Okay, actually, before giving, what do you think? What's consciousness?
Oh, yeah, this is a very big philosophical debate. We can talk hours about. I do not think that there's something like free will in that sense. I think that we are just interacting with stimuli constantly. And there's just so many levels of stimuli happening within our heads and within the sort of links that we create that a consciousness emerges from to make sense of everything we get in.
Okay. Do you think there's an objective reality?
No. I think as a human you would not be able to create an objective reality because it's all filtered and it's all geared towards how you feel at that moment in time, how your physiology is, what sort of ideas are transpiring into your head. And that shapes, like you have your sensory input, like your eyes and your ears and everything that sensory input comes in. And then you create a picture. But my picture of that reality is completely different from your picture of reality. So there's no objective, like scientifically proven way to say this is my reality. It's all filtered towards my lens.
And we just happen to have similar lenses where we can project that what you're feeling feels like this. So we can agree on like...
Or sometimes we don't agree. Like, is the earth round or flat? Like,
but we can have anchors for reality in a sense. Like touch is an anchor, right?
But the interesting question, for instance, is: do we perceive the same color of orange? Like,
I don't think so. I agree with you. Yeah.
Like, how do we perceive the world? What are the things that we see? But I think in general terms, enough that we can work together and build societies and all that sort of stuff. So we perceive the world at least to a certain extent in the same way that if we build something, it will work for the majority of people.
I'll use this from Hoffman. He's saying reality is species-specific interface. I
would have to read that.
I'll send it over to you. We have flashing lights. We're done. This was awesome. Thank you. I'm glad I could catch up with you before you're heading to Netherlands.
Looking forward to spend the holidays with friends and family.
Yeah, man, you've been here for a while.
I've been here for 6 months. It's been fun, but also tough. Yeah.